A very good morning to each and everyone present here. Kalpana's ma'am's speech reminded me of how great it is, a pleasure to be here. How amazing it is to stand here in front of all of you, speaking to each and every one of you. I know that these fleeting moments, words, minutes will pass by me quite quickly, yet I'll still breathe the biggest sigh of relief imaginable once I'm done with the speech. At the same time, I know that this opportunity is truly incredible, and I want to make the most out of it. I want to enjoy every moment and speak from my heart. Unfortunately or fortunately, I had a misconstrued idea of what it meant to speak from my heart, to make the most out of this opportunity. When I applied for this position and got in, I wasn't truly excited. I didn't feel a surge of excitement, a surge of pleasure. What I instead felt was a surge of pressure. I felt like I had to, having been given this opportunity, prepare a truly incredible speech, extraordinary in every aspect, awe-inspiring, so much so that some of you would even cry. Thankfully, I don't have that expectation anymore. I don't have any evil intentions anymore. I realized along the process of making the speech, along this journey, that what really will make the speech great is for it to be mine, for it to be coming from myself, not from my ego, for it to coming from my heart. Yes, a part of me, even backstage, felt the need, the want to impress my peers as well as my teachers. A part of me wanted to do well on the TEDx YouTube platform. By that I mean generate views. And yes, even a part of me wanted to make my father proud, certainly. But why? I mean, the answer seems quite obvious and relatable, doesn't it? After all, it is human to have an ego. It is human to want, at times need, a sense of gratification from others. It is also human to chase after a goal, to chase after success, ever so irrationally, with no material benefit coming from it. Instead, what you gain is really just a feeling of accomplishment, a feeling of pride, a feeling of confidence that we characterize as our ego. This ego of ours is quite interesting and fascinating, yet we simplify it to something negative. Someone egoistic is someone who's delusional. But in reality, all of us have an ego. All of us are, in turn, egoistic. Ego, as I said, is a part of ourselves. It is essentially a part of every human being. However, it isn't inherent in us. We don't have an ego when we're born. We don't have an ego when we're in second grade, third grade, fourth grade. When we are kids, we don't have an ego. It's built out of our experiences, out of the hardships we overcome, and out of the hurdles we failed to get across, essentially our failures. Let me offer you an example. Right, so that's me dancing. And when I was in second grade, I danced for my cousin's wedding. That is not me in the second grade, to be clear. I was not that tall. And that dance was really good, very good, in fact, for a second grader. Ever since that moment, without ever practicing ever again, even in front of the mirror, just in the shower, I thought I was at the least a decent dancer. At the most, a great dancer. That was until 3 days ago when I danced again for one of my cousin's weddings. And perhaps this picture doesn't illustrate the extent to which I failed at that performance, the extent to which I was bad, but trust me, take my word for it, if I were to be watching that performance, I wouldn't be smiling like that, I'd be laughing. My point here is that I had a false conception of myself, of who I am and what I'm capable of. Why? Well, because of my ego. Our ego is something that's essential, a part of us, yes, but that does not mean it should spearhead our operations. Our ego, as defined by the father of analytical psychiatry, Carl Jung, is the part of the mind that mediates between the conscious and the unconscious, and is responsible for for reality testing and a sense of personal identity. There are two key phrases here, reality testing and personal identity. If not for my ego, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't have applied for this position if I actually thought I would not give a good speech, if I believed in the hearts of my hearts, if I believed that I could actually give that inspirational, awe-inspiring speech. I believe that each one of my classmates, each one of my grade mates, and perhaps a lot of all of you, if not all of you, can give a TED Talk, a truly good TED Talk, about your experiences, about your feelings, that would be worthwhile, memorable. But not everyone applied because of their ego. I've given speeches before. I've had experiences where I've talked on stage, given my speech without my paper and all not. And that gave me the confidence to speak here. Essentially, our ego is what helps us make decisions about our strengths and weaknesses. It helps us tackle real-world issues. It helps us survive. Unfortunately, we humans have a tendency to be in survival mode 90% of the time. That means that we let our ego spearhead operations. That means we choose what is comfortable, what we already know. But if we want to get ahead in life, obviously we have to go out of our comfort zone. In order to do that, we must listen to our heart. I've been saying that again and again, and it's quite an ambiguous phrase, quite a common phrase, isn't it? Well, personal identity, in that definition I told you about, is also a key phrase. For our ego is our identity, but only who we think we are, only how we perceive ourselves. And when talking about perception today, when our theme is that of the pale blue dot, we must talk about the pale blue dot and the perception through which we look at it. Another Carl, not our dear Carl Jung, but Carl Sagan coined the phrase of the pale blue dot. He believed that the pale blue dot tells us about our posturings, our imagined self-importance, the delusion that we have some privileged position in the universe, and that we are challenged by this point of pale light. Obviously, this point of pale light refers to our planet, but I think it also refers to our ego. In his book, The Pale Blue Dot, he says, and I'm paraphrasing his words entirely here, that as children we have this sense of curiosity, as Kalpama ma'am said, this sense of curiosity where we can tackle all problems, but not because we believe we can, not because of our ego, but simply because we have that curiosity too. We have the curiosity to tackle problems because we are following our heart. We're not letting our ego come in the way of raising our hand up high. We're not letting our ego define everyday decisions. Our everyday decisions are, in fact, defined by our ego. Why do I want to get a new t-shirt? Why do I want to score well in the next test? I asked myself these questions, and I understood that many of the answers were quite superficial. I was not realizing the point of doing things, including why I was doing this TED Talk. For the students here, why you want to do well in the next test is a question that's worth asking. Why, in general, is a question worth asking for any decision you make. Do you want to do well so that you achieve a certain point of success? Even for these weekly tests, even for our term tests, which are just there for your practice. You don't have to fight for each mark. Each mark will come to you if you deserve it. If you don't deserve it, that's also okay because it helps you practice. So I'm here today about to conclude my speech, and I think this one quote should be enough to give it a great conclusion. To summarize my findings through whatever time I've spent preparing for this speech. Your vision will become clear if you look inside your heart. Who looks inside awakens. A quote by Carl Jung. So don't be too obsessed. Don't be too particular about your ego, about your pale blue dot. Look outside, enjoy the world, enjoy yourself, your higher self, let that make your decisions. A fun fact is that today, on the 20th of July, 1969, is the very day that Apollo 11 landed on the moon. A very cool fact, completely unintentional, but something we realized after we went beyond just this TED Talk. There's more than just this one event. That's all. Thank you, everyone.